Well, tonight we're taking our cue from Maddie A, asking on Twitter, have South Africans really become so accustomed to child rape and murder that the focus is on racial issues? This is, of course, in relation to the rape of a 7-year-old at a restaurant in Pretoria.
So my comment of the day is that, Bongani, the more I think about it, perceptions are people's reality, whether they're right or wrong, and often they are right, but perceptions are reality. And I think through this whole incident, since the Dross rapist, since the whole thing blew up and then it was revealed that media was not naming him, etc., I think it became clear to me that the perceptions are very strong, that black accused, black alleged criminals are treated very differently to white accused white criminals. Possibly they're treated with kid gloves. There was talk that the Dross rapist was taken away in an ambulance. Would that have happened with a black accused? And I would like to apologize, I guess, because I was pretty vigilant. I went on Twitter, and since I've been a journalist, the rule has been that you do not name anybody involved in a sexual assault case until they have pleaded in court. And I guess the idea is at least you know if they are going to say I'm guilty or I'm not. And I
Why do you want to apologize?
Because I understand that is the law, but the NPA today is saying that journalists maybe, I think what they're suggesting is that we followed the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law. The fact is he had appeared in court. This was public record, and nobody, no law enforcement officials would in fact go ahead and prosecute any journalist. So I guess I should have dug a little bit deeper, maybe spoken to the NPA. And look, I guess the old way of doing things was that often you would plead the first time you appeared in court. So
it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because obviously you are right in the sense that the media has some introspection to do here in terms of how we deal with these issues. There are those who will say, of course, that the demographics of South Africa mean necessarily that the majority of the accused are always going to be black, and that, if anything, the lessons of the last 2 weeks have shown how we in the media tend to have a herd mentality. So one organization wouldn't name this accused for the reasons you've already outlined, and the rest of us followed. And that we typically do the same thing without thinking. And that perhaps the wider question isn't necessarily about race, but rather media ethics and the idea that those of us in the media tend to follow the herd. That's our discussion this evening. What are your thoughts? Is this about racial touch points? Because that is South Africa. Send us your tweets, send us your views. We do want your voice notes. Does the media have tough questions to answer in terms of how it reports on accused? All right, we do have a tweeter that's coming up on your screen. There it is. The root of the hashtag Westbury gang problem is not a lack of policing, it's a lack of parenting. That's the one view on Twitter. I would strongly disagree with that. I was on the ground there. I think that community, as you and Griselda outlined, faces a number of challenges.
But would you disagree? I mean, Griselda Lewis was in studio a little while ago saying that I think 30 to 40 people go in for to a certain rehab center, some as young as 8 years old. That points to something bigger than turf wars between drug dealers. But it's certainly not going to be parenting.
I mean, you've got to look at the wider societal issues. 8 years old. You've got to look at the wider societal issues that occur in that community. Listen, when there are no recreational facilities, when their education system is dysfunctional, there are so many other problems that feed into why people get sucked into this. And as you discussed, this isn't about gangsterism, this is about turf wars between drug dealers who are often members of those communities themselves. So how young kids then get pulled in and sucked into a life of dealing or using is a very complicated issue, and it goes a lot more than just blaming the parents. I would strongly disagree with that. We're keen to hear your views. Do send us some of your comments. I think we've got a voice note.
Yeah, let's listen to what you have to say.
Good evening. What surprises me is the fact that less than a year ago, or maybe just on a year ago, we had such a huge problem with exactly that's happening in Westbury, where people took the law into their own hands because law enforcement didn't meet their demands or even come and chat to them. So I'm surprised it's taken so long, and if the government doesn't do something about the corruption in this area, we're going to have another case where they're going to start burning houses and start taking things into their own hands. So it's about time now that governments actually stepped in and do something before time comes for them to campaign for elections. Thank you.